couldn't figure out how to connect to the database we are creating. Suppose we are creating the database. Yeah, suppose you have given us the task to create a database. So, and I had an error or failed, right? So I was figuring it out how to connect it to the task. You said that connect it to the database. Then only your query, your the statements will work. So if you can tell that again, please.
Oh, okay. You want me to? All right, no problem. Why
so Pratik,
yeah.
To be a little bit specific. So, for example, like I was facing the same issue, like the task that you have given, you have asked to use the loan underscore DB underscore new. Now, how do we connect that one? Because the credit underscore card and DB, I was able to connect because you have given the link and everything.
On Pop SQL?
Pop SQL, yes, Pop SQL.
Pop SQL as well as on the workbench both.
Yeah, no problem.
One more thing, while working on this, save update error while deleting. You have put the save update while deleting the command.
Also, the query from me, Pratik Faisal this side. So I was not able to understand the syntax of adding a heading of a table to a different table. So creating it. So the one greater than 2, that syntax is.
I will tell you.
So Pratik, one more that I had copy only the structure, that is impossible condition. That part I didn't understand. That is the last thing.
Same thing.
Yeah, and one more thing, in one of the notes there was something like reverse engineer control plus R. Where will we use that? As rest I was able to do it. Thank you.
There were certain commands that you have written in the text, but they are not actually functioning. They were giving some error. So we'll ask that also.
Okay. Let's go one by one. How to connect to a new database using sorry, anything else? Anybody?
Yeah, Kshitij this side, Pratik. So remember we discussed that on Workbench it's not case sensitive or something, but when I try to create a table, use that reference customers one, so it's kind of a case sensitive in Workbench as well.
What I said was, if you're creating a database locally in MySQL, locally in your local
okay. On cloud it's case sensitive anyways, with while we are using Pop SQL or Workbench, it doesn't.
Or any, I mean, if the database is created on AWS cloud server, then it is.
Okay, that makes
now
sense.
See, this is AWS cloud server, okay, and I'm not sure which version they run internally because they don't really disclose of MySQL server. But what I'm trying to say is that it, I mean, let's say if you're creating a database on a Microsoft Azure cloud server, right? It may not be case sensitive also, Kshitij. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a little weird. So that is why safe thing to suggest or to kind of follow is that you remain case sensitive. But it's not a big deal, you'll understand that you're getting an error because of that case sensitive problem.
Yeah.
Pratik, what is safe update mode?
We'll talk about it, Deepika.
Okay.
Okay. Now, how to connect to a new database using MySQL Pop SQL Workbench? Anybody who would like to answer this question?
Yes, please. Because I did it. Because I'm working on that SQL only. So.
Yeah. Tell me, how did you do it?
So
go ahead and share your screen. Go ahead and share your screen.
Yes, sir. I'm working on 2 labs.
You said you're working on 2 laptops. Okay. Got it. Nice. You're on mute.
Yeah. So here in manage connections, sorry. Let me go back.
Preferences, right next to preferences, you have a back arrow right next to preferences.
Yes. Okay. So account, manage connections. Then here we have add connections, add new connections. MySQL. Give whatever we can give any name. I have kept my MySQL only. Host name that we already have. Then database, yes. Here I have added credit and known DB new. There we can connect whatever is in the file and whatever is described, and that's all. Username is admin. Password it's given IB Pro 11 and exclamation marks.
So essentially what she's saying is that for every new database, because in Pop SQL connection file, it is mandatory to give the database name. Hence, whenever you create a new database and you want to connect to that database, you have to create a new connection file.
Okay, got it. Okay, okay, it was so simple. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think.
So the host name will remain same, right?
Yeah, all the things are same.
Everything will remain same.
Everything remains same. Sanjeev, we are doing it in the same repository, same server.
Okay. Now while working also, it will help. See, here, because I have given only two MySQL. So if I click here, so credit card DB is there. Now, if I will suggest to change your name MySQL 1, MySQL 2, but I knew that I have kept only, so I just
it's not a good
DB is there.
Yeah, it's not a good practice. You should change the connection name. This is the connection name, by the way.
Yes. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Shweta.
Thank you.
Let me share my screen. Let me show you something. I'm facing. Please confirm I'm on a right Pop SQL, because I'm unable to do anything on this particular.
Okay, because you're not established a connection. You're connected to the you're not connected to the database server that I had given the credentials for, Vikash. And how do you do that is you can go to manage connection and click on add. I mean, there is complete all the steps I've given in I think session 1 video.
This one?
No, not that one. I think yeah. Wait.
Practice
Yeah, this one.
only it will be there.
It's in this one, right? Reading material SQL notes.
Yeah.
Practice assessment.
This one. Session 1 only we had covered this. Yeah, open it.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys have a WhatsApp group, right? Everybody internal?
Yes.
Feel free to ask such questions there. I mean, I'm sure there are your friends, your colleagues are pretty helpful. Vikash, if you would have asked this question, I know that everybody is very, very helpful in this. So if you notice,
I was I was working with the IT team, but somehow they are unable to install the SQL. So it's good if I can use my Pop SQL for the entire training session.
That's fine. Here.
Okay, I will do that. Yeah, thank you.
And recording is also there. Okay, I mean, you can watch that recording.
Sure, I will do that. Yeah.
But you must do it right away, Vikas. Meaning like today only.
Okay.
After
Sure, I will do that. I will definitely do that.
Yeah. Okay, Shubham, you had a problem with the laptop. Is that resolved, Shubham?
No, Pradeep.
So, but now you're able to access everything on Pop SQL, right? Like how we spoke about yesterday. No?
No.
It's being resolved, Pratik. So especially in the Shubham case, his supervisor has told that it's in progress, will get resolved soon, in a couple of days. Ideally should have been earlier, but yes.
Okay. Okay, Vikas, you can go on mute. Thank you, Vikas. How to disable the safe update and why do we need to disable and what it is? So let's just quickly talk about it. I think we spoke about it yesterday a little bit, but we'll just talk about it again. What happens is if you're trying to delete all the rows of a table, or if you're trying to update all the rows of a table, that is when you end up getting this this thing. Say for example,
Pratik, Shikhar this side. This question arises just because you have given the assignment of credit card, where you have put the fourth option of update the name of Rahul Vaidya. That I have updated, but it's give me the safe update error every time when I'm updating it. And on the delete basis, it also gives the error same.
Yeah. So what happens is, for delete and update, right? If it ends up deleting more than a row in one statement, or if it ends up updating more than one row in one statement, then by default, one security setting which is enabled in most of the databases, which is called as save update or save delete, which essentially means that you're not allowed to do a bulk update or bulk delete unless you disable this option, which is this statement can disable this option. Set SQL underscore save underscore updates is equal to 0. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, guys?
Pratik,
In case of like say safe updates and deletes only.
Yes, just in case of this.
But this is not required when we are using the where clause, right? This is what is written in the notes.
Yeah, I mean, see, again, it's one of those things which kind of varies a little bit with database server. Okay. Now, what happens is 90% of the time, if you're using where clause, you will not get this error. You will not get this prompt, security prompt. But I have observed, several times, even with where clause, it may give you that prompt.
Yeah.
I get a point, which is like a system control, which is designed in such a way that it errs, it makes a mistake, but in the safer side, it makes a mistake. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Okay. So generally what we say is that if you're going to update or delete more than a row, right, with one where statement or one update statement, disable it and then enable it back. For enabling, again, it's just the same statement. We just make it as 1. That will enable it back. By default, it is this this option is enabled with the help of 1. By default, it is so. Is this clear, everybody?
So basically, what it is doing is it is removing the check of bulk delete.
Hanji. And I mean, like in here in MySQL Workbench, I can also see that setting. If I go to edit and if I go to preferences, and if I scroll, it's opening. If I go to SQL editor, and if I scroll all the way down, then it says safe update is disabled right now. Rejects updates and deletes with no restrictions. See, look at the error, look at the message. Enables the safe SQL save option for this session. If enabled, MySQL aborts update or delete statement that do not use a key in the where clause or a limit clause. So this makes it possible to catch update or delete statements where keys are not used properly, and that could probably change or delete a large number of records. Is it making sense?
Okay.
But Pratik, when I was working on like deleting the line where for that Rahul Vaidya thing, so it gave me that error, and I went there and disabled the key, but there was only one entry. Then still, why we got that error?
See, what happens is, Ankita, because I mean, for example, this table that we have created, right? If you look at this, cust ID should have been a primary key. I get a point. What I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Or so I'm using this, right? Now, let's say if I am trying to delete, let's say I disable this option. I mean, I enable this option, right? And let's say if I do select star from Shweta underscore customers. Okay.
And Pratik, suppose if I have refreshed the select from XYZ name loans and I have refreshed it 4 times, does it take the duplicate query also?
No. Refreshing doesn't mean that it takes duplicate values.
Okay, thank you.
Now, if you notice here, everybody, I have enabled this option safe update, which you can also verify from, I think here you should be able to verify. Oh. Yeah. Now, here, if I did, now, if you notice, right, this table, Shweta underscore customers, doesn't have any primary key. I get your point, Ankita. Yeah. This column is not designated as a primary key column. You can see this. Key is empty. And Ankita, it can be left blank. So what the safe update does is, technically speaking, that suppose if I'm delete from, or let's say if I'm update Shweta underscore customers, delete set, and what was the name? Yeah, so Shubhas. Okay. Let's say set cust name is equals to Pratik, where cust ID, where let's say gender is equals to male. All male customers data will change to name will change to this. Now, if I run this statement, I get an error saying that you're using a safe update or to save delete mode. Do you see this, Ankita?
I was getting the same error.
And the reason for that is that this table doesn't contain any primary key, and in our update statement we have not used any primary key when we gave the where clause.
Okay. So you're saying that if we will use the primary key anywhere, then we'll not get that error.
Yes. Again, that is for also 95% of the time.
Okay.
It's a little buggy. See, I mean, why it is designed to be like that? It's like almost system design. Okay, that we do not. I mean, the system doesn't want you to be able to delete or update more than what you want. I get it. It's like the banks. Even though you have a daily credit limit of 2 lakhs to spend on your credit card, but at times even when you spend 75,000, you get a call from the bank.
Yeah.
And hey, we have rejected this. Are you really sure you want to do it? And then go ahead and please do it. This time we will approve it. Even though you have a limit of 2 lakh every day. I get the point.
Yes.
So it's kind of like that. The system is designed to err, to make mistake in the defensible side.
Okay, got it. And also I have another question, like when we, like for example, when I was creating the table, so instead of selecting one row, I actually started and run the whole code again. So it created multiple lines. Like for example, if I was adding one customer, so I ended up creating more than one line. So is there any syntax
Meaning, Ankita, you're saying that when you're inserting the data, you inserted the same customer's data multiple times.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
And can anybody answer this question as to why she was allowed to enter multiple data in the same table, duplicate data?
No primary key.
No
Absolutely.
prime.
Ankita, when you created the table, for example, if I look at Shweta customers table again, it's metadata. There is no key here, right? So that
Yep.
means customer ID can repeat.
Oh, okay.
So when we created the table at that time, we did not assign any of the columns as primary key, and hence, there is no control over duplication.
Okay. And let's, for example, let's assume that it was not because of customer ID and like there was a name that I had different customer ID, but the name was same. Now, if I want to delete one line, so is there any syntax to remove duplicate items?
We will talk about it. We'll have to learn a few things to be able to only delete those rows which have, let's say, duplicating names. One of the assignments that I'm also going to give to you.
Okay, thank you.
So Pratik, the solution is to set the safe mode 0 first and then 1, and then we can do it, right?
What
Yeah, you are saying no, that the save delete part.
Oh, the save delete part. I mean, see again, Sanjeev, I don't want you to inculcate a bad habit also by saying that, you know what, please, even if you have the root access, right? I mean, complete access, go ahead and go ahead and disable the save update option or save delete option. It is there as a control that, I mean, let's say, one day you have a, bad fight with your spouse or your girlfriend, boyfriend, and, you end up doing something that you didn't want to, right? So it's like that. So you don't want to, I don't want to say that blanket that, yes, go ahead and disable this option and keep running the statements, Sanjeev.
Okay, then what about the error it's showing?
It's not so it's again.
It's a warning. Okay,
Yeah,
it's kind of a warning.
It's like a control.
All right, got it.
Yeah.
So we can run anyhow, right?
Yeah, you can disable that and then run that. It'll run.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. This question, copying a table schema from one table to another. If you look at this, you see, at times, what you may want to do is, you may want to copy the schema. That means the design. That means, let's say, the columns, right? From one table to another without copying the data. And at times, you may want to copy the data as well as the table from one table to another completely. Do you understand? Let me put it like this. There are two scenarios we will discuss. One scenario is that we want to copy only the columns. And the second scenario is that we want to copy the entire table. That means the columns and the rows. Rows meaning the data. From one table to another. Do you understand? So for the first scenario, let's say we are saying, which database are we? We are working with credit card customers database, right? Yeah. So it has a customers table. So if you notice that it has this table, it has all these columns, right, everybody? And all this data. Now, what would happen if I do a limit here?
It will only show 5 rows. 5.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, it will show you 5 rows from that customers table, isn't it? Now it has all these columns, these 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns which are there, 8 columns. Now let's say, how do we copy only the structure of a table into a new table? No rows, only the columns. So let's say we know that to create a new table, we have a statement called as create table customers. So let's say we are creating a table called as create table customers in temp. Okay. Using, now look at this statement, huh? Suppose here I write a where condition where serial number is equals to this much. What do you think I will get if I run this statement? What will I get?
So
No
will
query.
5, so it means like 5 digit will be picked from this serial number.
Nay, it means it will pick up those rows, Dheeraj, from the customer's table where the serial number columns value is equal to this.
Okay.
I get a point. Now, I mean, whether I limit it or not limit it doesn't matter. Now, if I run this statement, I get the columns, but I don't get any rows, right, Dheeraj?
Right.
Why am I not getting any rows? Because none of the rows
have this number.
Has this value in the serial number, right?
Yes.
If I simply write on top here, create a table called as customers temp, right? And normally after that, we write in the bracket, we mention the field, the data types, field, data type, field, data type, right? But there is an interesting way of creating a new table by copying the data, by copying the structure from another table. So now create table customers temp, and there is nothing. There is no semicolon here. I simply run. So this entire statement becomes like one statement here. So the way it will run is that it will first fetch this query, and the output of this query is these columns, right? And using these columns, it will create this table.
Right.
So if I run this statement, it runs it, and if I refresh it here, then I can see
Yeah.
Customer temp may be below.
In the
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Got it? Now this state, suppose if I write this is an empty table, isn't it?
Yes.
So if you run a select statement with an impossible condition, this is an impossible condition. The output of that select statement will only be just columns. And if you run a create on top of it, then it creates a new table using only the columns. Is it making sense, everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
So this is copying a table schema from one table to another. It's like a jugaad way of doing it, but it's a very common way of doing it. Okay. Now, what if you wanted to also copy the? So that is why, what I've done here is that I've given an impossible condition. 1 is greater than 2. I could have written serial number greater than 99999 as well. I get a point.
Okay, that 1 is greater than 2 is an impossible condition. That's why it's picking up only the header.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Got it? Now, if you want to copy the data as well, while creating a new table, if you want to copy the data as well, then what would you do? So what do you think this will do? It will first run this select statement, fetch 5 rows from the customer's table, and using those 5 rows, it will create this table. Right? And now, if I run this statement, I can see those 5 rows are also added to this new table called as customers_temp2. Clear?
Yes.
All right then. So this is done.
So Pratik, if we wanted to copy the entire rows, I mean the whole data,
We would
not
not
just limit to 5 only.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Chitis?
Okay, we not going to set limit, only select restrict from customers. Okay. And do we have an option to copy the table from a different database to our
Yeah.
database?
Yeah, you can, but then the implied notion there is that you have access to both the database. That means the same login ID has access to both the database. That means essentially they reside in the same place, same server. So here I could have written a different database name. For example, let's say let's say the one that I'm using right now is this credit card DB, right? But Ankita also has one database here. Ankita, I'm going to mess around with your database, okay? Ankita, are we fine with it? Well, she's not responding, so she's fine.
He just messaged. Sure.
Okay, Ankita DB dot
customers temp.
Ankita DB dot customers temp, and this is my default database, which is credit card. So I can write it also, just to avoid any confusion. Look at this, how easy it is to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Ritik.
So now if I'm using, so if I refresh it here, so Ankita has one more table given, right? Yeah. Is it making sense? Yeah.
So Pratik, if we write down like this way, a database name dot the table name, it allows us to use any table from any database without actually using that database prior, right? Since you have not used a you have used use Ankita database.
No, it's not necessary. It's not. If you're giving the database name, then that use is not necessary.
Right. The full path, if we provide, we don't require the use statement.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And if you followed my YouTube tutorial that I had given to you yesterday, I've spoken about how can we run these statements on Google BigQuery platform, okay, which is also a cloud platform. So there, it is mandatory to write the database name. There is no concept of using or making a database default, Gunjan.
Okay.
So Pratik, till now I was using whatever the database you have given. I can create my own database on PopSQL, right?
Well, you're not essentially creating your database in PopSQL. Where are we creating the database, Shweta?
Till now I have just used I have added the connection.
I know you added the connection, but my question is, when we create the database here, where does the database get created?
On cloud.
The server.
On the cloud server,
Yeah.
for which I have given you generously the login access. Are you getting the point?
Yes.
Okay.
You're not creating any database in PopSQL. It doesn't allow you. Just a client.
No, because I can see here people have created their own database.
It's very easy to create here also. I mean, create here also. You just write create database and then the name of the database. That's it.
Okay.
Create database and then the name of the database. Let's say Shweta. It will go ahead and create it. It runs, no problem. But it will not come over here because it's not there in this connection. I get the point.
Yes, I understood.
this part I'm not able to understand. What do you mean by it's not there in, in this database?
So success here. Faisal, when we connect from POP SQL, remember we select a database?
Yes, yes.
Enough. Yeah. So even though it allows you to create a database, but it doesn't become part of this database, because a database, another database can't be part of, another database. Do you understand? A table can be part of a database. So it has sent this instruction to the server, please create a one database.
Okay, you're creating a database, not a table. Okay.
Yeah, creating a database.
Because we are in credit database, so Shweta underscore customer database will not affect this database.
But if I go to MySQL Workbench, where we have connected to the server directly without specifying any particular database, hence it shows me all the databases which are there in this server.
So Prateek,
yeah,
I have a question.
Just 1 second, huh? Just to show you that this is the database that we just created. You see this?
Yes, got it.
Yes.
Now tell me.
So Prateek, just same like on a workbench, we directly create a connection, and we cannot define any server name.
Vivek,
yeah.
If you notice here, it says default schema. Default schema is like default database.
Okay.
Okay, where we have specified this, right? So by default, this is the default one, but MySQL Workbench is, it's a little free in that. I mean, it's a little lenient in that's saying that, what, all right, we will allow you, even when you connect to a particular database, we will still allow you access to all the other databases there. But POP SQL is a little more secure and says that every database. Haji?
We cannot create here.
Sorry, Vivek. Go ahead, Vivek.
Sorry, we cannot create a connection without
specifying the database name in POP SQL.
Okay. Thank you.
Got it?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. Good questions, guys. Now, this reverse engineer is essentially in MySQL Workbench only it works. It won't work in POP SQL, unfortunately. MySQL Workbench is a very nice client which allows you to see the ER diagram, the entity relationship diagram, the table relationship between different tables in a particular database visually. Okay, so if you what was the database that we created yesterday? Okay, let me show you in some other database. Let's say there is a database called as books, which has 4 tables in it. And what I have done is that I've created relationships between them. So if I come to this, right, database, and then I go to database, and this is only in MySQL Workbench, by the way. When I go to database, I can do something called as reverse engineer. And when I go to reverse engineer, it'll ask me, okay, which connection you want to connect to. So let's say I say that I want to connect to my local instance. I'm not connecting to the database server. I'm connecting to the local instance. Okay. And I click next. And then it will retrieve all the schemas. That means all the databases which are there in my local database server. It's fetching, so it's going to take a little bit of time. It's fetching because there are so many databases that I've created in my local thing, and it has given me the list of all the databases which are running in, which are hosted in my local database server. I select a particular database, and then I click on next, and it retrieves all the objects from it. Objects meaning all the tables. So there are 4 tables. Have you understood what we have done so far? What we have done is that we have connected to a local database server, which had multiple databases in it. And from within those multiple databases, I've connected to one particular database called as books, which has 4 tables in it. And why are we doing this? So that we can visually see the table relationship diagram, which we also call as entity relationship diagram. And then I'm going to execute it, place objects on diagram. Next, 4 tables put into the schema, and then it creates this. Is it making sense, everybody?
Yes.
So what does this diagram depicts?
What do you think it depicts?
One to many, many to many relationships.
Yeah, so it shows the relationship view of the different tables which are there in a database. And when you over here, it also shows the columns which are common. And if you notice, this is a symbol for one, and this is a symbol for many.
Okay.
And the best part is that you can export it as a PDF file or PNG, meaning like an image file, and then it can be seen as well, something like this. Okay. And when you are running SQL queries, you need this kind of a diagram in front of you just to know what all columns are there. I mean, what all tables are there in the database. How are the tables related to each other? What are the common columns? What are the different columns? What are the data types? Which column is primary key, and so forth. I get your point.
Okay. So that exclamation mark or the key thing is icon is a primary key.
Yeah, it's actually a key. It's actually a key.
And I can see that there is a diamond with a different color and a blank color.
Data types, different data types.
Okay.
And also these also mean that there is a constraint on it. So DOB, I think I put it as not null. Email, I have put it as unique.
Okay. So basically pictorial representation of the
design.
Okay.
Pratik, what are these indexes here?
Indexes, again, I don't want to go into the details of the indexes. Indexes are those columns which have some specific restrictions. For example, primary key and unique column. What happens is, Sanjeev, indexes are created on tables on certain columns to speeden up the searches, Sanjeev. And generally, those columns which have special constraints, for example, primary key and unique, they have been put those special constraints because probably they are more important and hence more searchable. People will normally search for customers using their customer ID. Employees will be searched on the basis of employee ID. So what happens is the databases index them. Index meaning they put them into a special area, which is like a fast memory access area, Sanjeev. So that when we are searching, the searches become faster. So Sanjeev, okay. I don't want to go too much into the details of it because then we are going to talk about database architecture, and it may just confuse a lot of things. But indexes are there to speeden up the searches, and indexes are created on those important columns which have special constraints, primary key, unique, such constraints, so that the searches become faster. Sanjeev.
Okay. What are these arrows then showing?
These arrows?
Yeah.
This means one, and this means many.
Yeah, that I got it. In front of customers table name and in front of indexes.
This one.
Yeah.
This is just a drop down. If you want to.
All right. Okay.
I get your point.
So the navigation becomes easy, right?
No, it's not about navigation. It's more about, I want to see the design of what database that I have created.
Yes. And a flow chart.
A flow.
You can call that as a data flow diagram. I mean, if my engineering classes, we used to also call them as the DFDs, data flow diagrams, but commonly it is called as ER diagram, entity relationship diagram or table relationship diagram.
Okay, understood.
Pratik, when does a dotted line use versus an absolute line?
I thought nobody would ask. All right, since you've asked. What happens is, there is something called as identifying relationship, and then there is something called as non-identifying relationship. Okay. Identifying relationship basically means that this table, for example, author books table, will not exist unless author table and books table both exist. Because this author books table, if you notice carefully, it has only two columns in it, AID and ISBN. And AID happens to be the primary key of the author's table, and ISBN happens to be the primary key of the books table. So this is like a junction table, which we have created for a specific purpose. Do you guys remember the discussion that we had in the first class or probably the second class about junction table?
Yes, yes.
When do we create a junction table, guys?
When they're many to many.
Absolutely right, Sandeep. So we create a junction table and we put the primary key of both the parent tables into the junction table, right? So in an essence, the author table and the books table kind of become like parent of this. So unless author table and the books table exist, this author books table will not exist. So that means this becomes like an identifying relationship. Do you understand? And hence for identifying relationship, it's solid line. And for a non-identifying relationship, meaning this books table can independently exist even if publisher table doesn't exist, technically speaking, not logically speaking, technically speaking, because the books table has a lot of other things as well.
So basically, this is the same thing that you're talking about, the primary and foreign key thing, wherein you have split it one table to three.
Haji. And then we said that, you know what, I mean, if there is a many to many relationship between any two tables, then we need to create a third table.
Yes, yes, for foreign key.
Clear?
Yes.
Okay, good questions, guys. But I want to utilize the last 10 minutes on doing some hands-on things so that you have something to do as hands-on as well today. Okay, very, very important and interesting thing I wanted to do today. What I've done is, if I go back to my POP SQL, and if I refresh it here, yes, Shweta. I mean, you can create your own database on POP SQL as well, like the way we just created, Shweta. And so Shweta sent me a question on the chat window. And then you can use all the DML statements, all the statements. You just have to create a new connection to connect to it.
And we can also copy the whole thing from one database.
We can. I get your point, Shweta.
Yes, Pratik, because I was using all the whatever you have given and then all the queries, but I just wanted to do everything from scratch, not to just copy paste from your notes.
Correct. Very good thought, Shweta. That means you are ready for practice assignments, which I'm going to give to you today, where I'm not going to give you the codes. Very good. I like that spirit. All right. So here, what I've done is I have created a new database. Sorry, I've created a new database. Let me close all this. I've created a new database called as, I suppose, loans_new. Okay. And let's see. I'll establish a connection with that loans_SQL. My SQL here, and then I'll say loans DB. So I'll just test the connection. Looks good. Nice. I'll connect to it. Nice. And then I will change the database connection here. And then when I refresh it, it now gives me this one. Is it making sense, everybody?
Yes. Yes.
Now, if I if you look at this, this has two tables in it, customers table and loans table. And if I run a statement, select star from customers, right? Customers. And if I run this statement, is going to fetch a lot of records from the customers table. You can see it has fetched 97 records only. I mean, maybe 97 records were only uploaded. You can see, right? And if I say select star from loans, no data in it. Okay. Give me a second. Okay, sorry. I want to connect to loans_db_new. I'm sorry, my mistake. Let me change the connection. My mistake. Loan_db_new.
Pratik, I have done few tables in that. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. I mean, that's completely understandable. Just give me a second. Okay. Loans_new only. So what I've done, guys, just to give you a background, what I've done is that I've created a new database called as loans_new, and I've created two tables in it. Which are those two tables? I've created this table called as, okay, it's not fetching here for some odd reason, but I've created two tables in it. The tables that I've created are
Customers and loans.
Customers and the loans, right? And in the customers table and in the loans table, I have created bunch of, I've inserted bunch of records. You can see I've inserted a lot of records. Do you see this? And similarly, I have inserted a lot of records in the loans table. And if you notice between the two table, customers table and the loans table, there is a column called as loan ID, which is common. See, this is customers table. And suppose if I fetch the data from the loans table, then loan ID is also, loan_ID is also there in the loans table. Is it making sense, everybody?
Yes.
Now, what we want to do is that we want to start analyzing this data, this database. Okay, these tables we want to start analyzing. And in order to start analyzing these tables or the data in these tables, we will need to run select statement, which helps us to read the data from these SQL statements. From these databases. So in your LMS, I have uploaded certain select statements. You can see I've uploaded Second, certain select statement in the same, in yesterday's session 3 session 3, which says, I don't know why it's not showing, but yeah, you'll find it in yesterday's session only. You'll find select statement introduction to SQL statement, where I have given a lot of codes, right, to run select statement. I mean, we have already seen how to run the select statement. You guys are pretty familiar with select statement now anyways. But there are a couple of things that I would want to talk about, which will help us to fetch the data from these multiple tables, and which will also help us to query and understand and answer business questions. Is this making sense? Because as an analyst, that's the most important thing that we do. So we already know that the sequence that we write the select statement is select from where. After from, we write the database name dot the table name, and then after where we write the conditions, right? And then after select, we can select the fields. This is how we write select from where, but the system reads it in a different format. The system first opens the table or opens the database, then it specifies, then if you have specified any condition, then it goes to where. That means it only selects those rows from this table which matches the condition. And then at the very end, does it go to select? Did you understand what I'm trying to say, guys?
Yep.
So if I were to run this statement here, select from loans, or let's say select from customers, where gender is equals to F. Do you understand? What this will do is, it will actually first open this table, and if this table doesn't exist in the database server, it will give you an error. And then it will filter all the rows which do not match this condition. And then for the rows which match this condition, it will select these columns. Here I've written star or asterisk, that means all the columns. Is it making sense? This is how the system reads it. Okay. So then what happens is that the state, see, we are going to run more than 200 queries together, or we are going to learn how to write these queries together. The select queries, actual business queries, right? So it's very important to be able to visualize the output that you're looking for. See, what you're doing as an analyst is you're converting a business question into a database select query. Meaning, let's say you want to find out, are there more boys or are there more males than female customers that we have? Or maybe your question is, do we have richer female customers than the male customers? Or do we have people who, do we have more people from certain regions than the other? So any such business question that you may have to be converted into a select statement or a query statement. And that's what this helps you to do, that if you visualize the output, right, then it becomes much easier. And one of the other things that I say about visualization of the output is, let's say if your question is that I want to find out all the males with income more than, let's say, more than $8,000. Then output that I'm expecting is that I want one column which will have cust ID, and the second column which will have income. I get what, guys? So this is called as visualizing the output. And any select queries output will be a table, will look like a table. So we also call it as a tabular output, right? So if you have visualized the output, then you know from which table you will get this data from, and what are the things that you want to select, right? Then think of the execution sequence. That means from which table will you get this data, what conditions that you have to specify, and what do we have to select to display. Then write the select statement. Visualize the output, think of the execution sequence. Remember, from is first, then where, and select is last. Then write the select statement. Got it? So here I have mentioned use the loans data set, but I should have modified this. Use the which data set, guys? What is the name of the database that I have given?
It's loan underscore DB underscore new.
No, just loans underscore
Only new.
New, sorry. Loans underscore new.
Yeah, loans underscore new. Unfortunately, I should have renamed the query. But yeah, so sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, after that, you've seen these kind of queries quite a bit. Now, look at this. All the loans that are approved and have loan amount more than 200, right? So if you notice this, from this, again, wherever it says loan data set, by the way, guys, please go ahead and change it to loan underscore new. Yeah. Dot loans. I mean, you don't even have to give that database name. By default, it will take
Yes,
it.
we don't have a name.
Yeah. And then loan start is going to do Y, and the loan amount is greater than 200. Got it? And yeah, I mean, and how do we handle different cell values? We have already seen. For text values, what do we write? We put them under pair or double quotes. For date values also, we put them under pair or double quotes, but the date format is YYYY hyphen MM hyphen DD. Right, everybody? Yeah. And integer values are used without any quotes. Right? We have seen it. And the binary values. Binary values are used with true and false without any quotes. Got it? So there is a column here called as credit card, credit history, which most likely is a binary column. And to kind of quickly check it, you can always describe the table, and then it will give you a lot of time. Yeah, essentially it'll give you the data type of that particular column, and then that kind of helps you to figure it out. Or you can also come over here and you can go to credit history. It says binary here. See this in Pop SQL, right? Nice. I don't know why it's not, but there is a credit history column here which is not showing up over here, but it's there. You can see it. It's over here, and the column is this. Is it making sense, everybody?
Yes, Pratik.
Yes.
Clear? All right. Yeah, I mean, so if you follow these statements, this is completely hands-on, okay, guys? You will come to certain places in the document where it says practice questions, right? For these practice questions, please do these questions by yourself. I have not given the solution to these questions. So what you're supposed to do is, you're supposed to send the solution back to me, I mean, back to that genpact@ivproschool.com email. Before tomorrow's class, guys. Please do that. They're not, it's going to take, if you follow this, it's going to take approximately 30 to 45 minutes to do the complete thing, end to end.
Pratik, how would we send it?
Just send it to this email.
Okay, but
so we have to write a code.
Text document.
But
Yeah.
But the
just put it
codes.
into it. Yeah, just the code. Just the code. I just want to see
Okay. The statements, right?
Yeah, the statements. You can write them in a notepad file. You can write them into Word file. First, of course, you'll write it in the client that you're using Pop SQL or Workbench, and copy and put it over there in a notepad file or something.
Yes, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Pratik,
Yeah.
I have a question. Like the logical operators that we use in VB, like in Excel, those same logical operators are used in SQL as well.
Yes. All of them. In MySQL SQL, yes. And actually, I've given a list here, Ankita. Good question. I've given a list here. See, mathematical operators and addition, subtraction. You will also find something for remainder. Okay, and then the logical operators are also given here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So all the practice questions, wherever they are mentioned, all the practice questions, they are like
yes.
3 plus 2, 3, there are 8 or something.
Yeah, altogether less than 10.
That's sure.
Yeah, and I have given the reference statements before the practice questions. I get a point. All right, so that's the task for tomorrow, guys. And Eklavya, do they have a assessment today, right now? Eklavya?
Yes, they have it, Pratik.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pratik. So guys, we will start. We can start with